While we're waiting, if you can start introducing yourselves in our chat. So tell us your name, tell us where you're calling from, and what you teach. Thanks, Sejal. Aman
Oh,
Khan from Pune, nice to meet you. Shiana from Kabir Public School, awesome.
all right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We'll have a few more friends join in as we go into the workshop. Briefly, for anyone who's new to any Circle events, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we're doing as an organization. So the Circle is on a mission to create a network of schools and after schools across India that are reinventing learning and that are empowering children from low-income communities. We have a lot of exciting programs that we do. One of them is a 2-year full-time, fully funded incubation for entrepreneurs who want to start their own schools and after schools. We have applications for our incubation open right now. So if you are interested in applying or talking to someone from our team about what the program is and what it can do for you, please get in touch. I'll be sending a feedback form at the end of this session where you can record that interest among other things. We do other things like these workshops and webinars and cool light touch programs within the Circle as well. If you're just interested in getting to know amazing ideas out there, visit some cool schools in India and abroad. We do all of these things, and it's amazing to have all of you in this session. We've been exploring AI and what it means for educators in India and around the world with Ed3DAO since Feb began, actually. We've done some exciting sessions, and this is an experiment in just that. We're trying out some theme-based sessions to see what are the implications of AI for educators in certain niche areas. A little brief about Ed3DAO. Ed3DAO is a nonprofit dedicated to introducing 1 million educators worldwide to the realm of emerging technology. They're focused on leveraging Web3 and AI to revolutionize education. I think this is going to be a very amazing session. Just a few norms before we start. This is going to be a very hands-on workshop. Vriti here, who's here from Ed3DAO, she's the co-founder of Ed3, and we're very excited to have her. She'll facilitate for a little bit, but most of it will be you all either working together in smaller groups or working in large group sessions. So it'll be great if we get into this session with that mindset. And feel free to ask any questions you have on chat. I'm sure we can take some sessions also at the we can take some questions as the session goes on. And yeah, I think just over to you, Vriti. Thank you for joining us, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited about this. Also very excited that early childhood educators are interested in artificial intelligence. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can get started. Okay, and then as Amina mentioned, please do put your questions into the chat. And Amina, I'm going to rely on you to interrupt me and ask questions that are in the chat, just because while I'm presenting, I won't be able to look at it.
Sounds good.
So just a little bit about me. I was born in India in Jaipur, and I came to New York, and I've been living here ever since. I was an early childhood educator. I was a kindergarten teacher with Teach for America. And I know some of you might be part of Teach for India. So we had the Teach for America, part of that. And I taught in New York, and then for a few years, I was actually building schools around the world. We built a school in Shenzhen, China, and in DC, and I spent a lot of time visiting different schools. So I got to visit schools in India. I visited Dune School and Woodstock School and Ambani School and all those schools to learn more. Also, a bunch of other schools around the world. And I co-founded a nonprofit 2 years ago called Ed3DAO. It's ed3dao.com. You've already been there because you signed up for the session. And we're trying to educate educators about emerging technologies, AI, uh, blockchain, virtual reality, all of those things, and totally for free. So we're so glad that you're here, and I'm really excited to get started. So I just wanted to ground us in some of the information that you gave us. So we had 208 responses from you all on what you spend most of your time doing to prepare for teaching. And it turns out 80% of you spend most of your time lesson planning. So that is a huge, huge time suck for all of us. It takes up so much of our time when we're teaching, and it is very burdensome. Some of you also said that you spend a lot of time on research, researching pedagogy, and some of you talked about assessment and data. But most of you really wanted to focus on lesson planning because that is where you spend most of your time. The other thing I asked you was how comfortable are you using AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini? And as you can see, responses 4 and 5 are that you feel most comfortable, 1 and 2 is you feel least comfortable, and 3 is medium. And most of you are very comfortable actually using AI, which is awesome. So today, I'm not going to focus on the introduction that I usually do for these tools. We're actually going to do a brief overview, and then we're going to dive straight into it. And as Amina said, we're going to spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of context setting, but a lot of this is going to be you guys actually practicing with tools. And I'll teach you one type of prompt that you probably haven't heard of before that is going to help you get better results for lesson planning, which is what you spend most of your time doing. So today, as I said, is our main goal is to share best practices. We'll do some context setting around generative AI just so that we're all on the same page on what that means. We'll do some tool introductions. We'll do some lesson planning. We'll actually contribute to something that we call the collective intelligence bank. We'll do some practice and then we'll do some sharing. Okay, so just to get started, I always do this because I want to make sure that we're all able to talk about what generative AI is intelligently before we start using it. So generative AI is the ability to generate new content based on pre-trained data. And what that means is what generative AI does, like a tool like ChatGPT, is that it receives data from a data set, and what ChatGPT is using or Perplexity is using is internet and human engagement. So they're using all of the billions of pieces of data they have from the internet and what you guys put into it when you're actually using it. So that's all the information it's taking in. Then it transforms that data and analyzes it. So it has these algorithms that are sort of like looking at the data and pattern matching to say like, okay, well, Tejal is, putting this thing in, and Manisha is putting this thing in, and David's putting this thing in, and this is how this is, pattern matching to the billions of pieces of data we have from the past. Then it connects that information and predicts the next pixel or the next piece of information. So it'll say, well, it's interesting that Harpriya is, saying this because 1,000 other people also said this. That means that Harpriya's next, word is probably going to be X, Y, and Z based on the 1,000 other pieces of information I have. So that it basically makes these patterns that it matches with the information it has. And then based on that pattern, it generates new data and it generates new content that you're able to then use. And then it starts that cycle over again, where then it, gives that data to you, and then it basically brings it back and starts generating more content. So basically, the way that these tools work is the more feedback it gets, the more you use it, the more stronger it gets, the more faster it gets, and the more accurate it gets. So that's why over the last 2 years, ChatGPT has improved like 100x. And why? Because when it first started, it had 0 users. Now it has, I guess, like 100 million users or something crazy like that. And so basically, when it only had information from the internet, it had certain abilities. And now that it's getting so much use every single day, it's getting better and better and better. So I just wanted to context that because it's important for us to talk intelligently about this as educators so that we can sort of explain to people why this is working and how it's working. So we're going to do a quick activity. I'm going to sort of test you a little bit on how well you really know what AI does. So we're going to do 3 true or false questions. And in the chat, I want you to just write true or false if you think it's true or false. So this is the first question. Generative AI can think like humans. So I'm getting some falses in the chat. Go ahead and throw your response in there. I got some trues, some falses. Awesome. I love how engaged this audience is. Awesome. Okay, yeah, it's unclear. That's a really good answer too. So this is what's happening with generative AI. So generative AI, can you guys give me with like a sort of familiar or not familiar? Are you guys familiar with Bloom's taxonomy? Is that a sort of like a concept that's popular in India? It's very popular in the US. Okay, perfect. So Bloom's taxonomy is something that we teachers, thank you for your thumbs up. You guys are awesome. Bloom's taxonomy is, something we teachers have used for, decades, where we try to sort of like analyze the information that our students are receiving. And so what I did was I mapped AI onto Bloom's taxonomy. And I said, well, if the best thing that educators can do is basically help students go from the bottom to the top, how good is AI at doing any of these things? And so if you start from the bottom where it says remembering, AI is really good at remembering facts. We know this, right? Because it has like billions of pieces of data. It's going to remember facts 100 times better than any human, right? So it's great at remembering facts. But then it breaks down at understanding, which is crazy, right? Because that's only the second level of Bloom's taxonomy. It breaks down because AI does not make meaning of content. It's only pattern matching. It's not actually understanding what you're saying. A really good example of this is I spoke at a conference a few months ago, and one of the teachers said that he had his son use ChatGPT for an assignment, and the assignment was that he had to write a goodbye letter to racism, right? We know racism is not a good thing, but he had to write a goodbye letter to racism, so like bye racism. And ChatGPT started the letter with, "Hello racism, such great times we've had." Right? And it's because AI made zero meaning of what racism is, right? It did not understand it at all, but it pattern matched for what good letters sound like. And so that's why it's really important that you recognize that AI is not understanding what it's saying. It is only pattern matching. The next part is applying, which is using new information in similar situations. So it can do this, but humans do this better. And that's why there's like a caution sign next to it. The reason why humans do it better is because humans can make cognitive leaps in ways that AI can't. So because AI is pattern matching, it can only match patterns based on its previous data. But humans are inventive and innovative. So they will make patterns to things that people haven't even thought of. Like if think about your children in your classroom, how many times has your 4-year-old or 5-year-old said something to you that surprised you that you're like, how did you even think of that? That's crazy, right? And it's because humans can do that, especially children, but AI can't. The next is analyzing, so taking apart information and identifying relationships. As I said, that pattern matching piece, it's very, very good at. Evaluating, making judgments. AI cannot make judgments. It does not have your emotional experience. It does not have your human experience. It does not have the love, the hate, the sort of fights you've had with your friends. Like it doesn't have any of that. So it cannot make judgments on content. It can only help you using the previous data it has from the algorithms. And the last one is creating. So AI can create seemingly new content, but remember, it's always remixing the content it's had before, right? So it's putting together billions of pieces of information. So it seems like it's new, but it's actually not innovative, right? It's not something, humans can invent something new. AI can only pattern match and remix. So for that reason, the answer to this question, generative AI can think like humans, is it seems like it's true, but it's actually false. Generative AI cannot think like humans. Not yet exactly. Who knows? Maybe in 20 years it will. Okay, next question. You guys ready? Generative AI is biased. Generative AI is biased. True, some false, no, false, true, builds on what it receives. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I see a lot of falses. Okay, mostly falses. So bias is basically that like basically it is using its own sort of data and patterns to give you information that is often incorrect. And the truth is generative AI can be biased. It is true that generative AI can be biased. Now, generative AI, most of the apps that were created, so ChatGPT, for example, it was created in the United States, which means that most of the data it has, and because it's creating data from the internet, which is very global north oriented, the most of the data it has is very global north oriented. So it doesn't have a huge amount of data from global south yet. And it doesn't have a huge amount of data from indigenous communities or tribal communities or any communities that don't put their data online, right? Um, it also is very focused on white males. And the reason is because in our history, we've had more information from white males than from any other female. So, for example, I am a CEO. I asked ChatGPT, I promise you this is real. I asked ChatGPT to create an image of a CEO. And this is the image it created. It was not me.
Mm.
This is the white male image it created. So there is a little bit of a bias to white males, right? And it is also biased toward English because again, the language that it's pulling from the internet is English. So you have to keep that in mind that generative AI is biased. It's true that it's biased because when you're thinking through this as an educator, you want to make sure that you're keeping that frame in mind. His story, exactly. Thank you. The last question. Here's the last one. Generative AI is safe for students under 13. Generative AI is safe for students under 13. I see big no's, lots of no's, falses. Oh, okay, we have a unanimous agreement here. You all think generative AI is not safe for under 13. You are totally correct. Generative AI is not safe for students under 13. And the reason for that is because generative AI was not made for students under 13, and it has access to all of the internet data that anyone has
Mm.
access to. And so it's the same thing with the internet. Is the internet safe for under 13? Probably not, right? Because there's so much content out there. That doesn't mean that we can't figure out ways to use it in ECE. That just means that we have to be very, very vigilant and we cannot leave students under 13 alone with any of our tools
Mm.
or social media, exactly, or some teachers. Rough, but yes.
Riti, someone in
Okay.
the chat has asked, Gauri, probably this was a few minutes ago, that she was asking around when we were talking about gathering information, who uses it, where is it drawing the information from, and the digital divide, is it also real?
Yeah, so all of the information right now, especially for tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT, come from its repository of internet, right? So
Mm.
everything that's on the internet is where it's driving its information from. And the second place is again the feedback loop that it's getting from you giving it information. So like for example, I use ChatGPT to help me with my business and to sort of like help me sort of like write grants and things like that.
Mm.
So every time I put my information about my company into ChatGPT, it gets more information, right? So it's
Yeah.
getting more information from the stuff that we're giving it. Exactly. Each prompt does train it. All right. So this is an obvious one. You are the most important resource for your students. I'm not going to ask you to answer this question because the answer is true, right? It's really important that you know that no matter what AI tool you have, no matter how much it can do, you are the safest person for your child. You are the most knowledgeable person. You are going to be the person who really curates that information for your child. And so everything that we do today, just take it with a grain of salt, right? Remember that even though these tools are extremely powerful and you should be using them to save time, to do time management, to lesson plan, all that, you should be using them because they're available and they're free and they're powerful. But you should really be putting your judgment hat on and making sure that you are assessing what the content is and you are assessing what the quality is. You're assessing like how you should actually use it. That is all up to you. Okay, so just a few tool introductions. We are going to focus today on ChatGPT and Perplexity. And the reason for that is those two tools are totally free to use. They're very easy to access. In fact, as I'm talking, if you don't already have an account with at least one of these tools, go ahead and create one so that you can get ready when we're starting to do things. But I wanted to talk about the differences between these two tools so that you can choose and pick whichever one you want. So with ChatGPT, a little bit more versatile. There's a little bit more creativity. It focuses a little bit more on like how to create more interesting content, whereas Perplexity is better at citing sources. So if you want to do like pedagogy research, a lot of you said you spend a lot of time doing pedagogy research. If you want to do stuff like that, Perplexity is better because it's much better at giving you factual information that is much better cited. The other thing is ChatGPT is going to give you like a little bit more playful and interactive content, whereas Perplexity is going to give you content that is more current because ChatGPT, the free version, it doesn't access current content on the internet, whereas the free version of Perplexity does. The paid version of ChatGPT accesses current content on the internet, but if you don't have the paid version, then the free version does not. So you just have to sort of like pick and choose which one are you considering. I would say for lesson planning, ChatGPT is probably better. But then if you want to like match your lesson planning to certain pedagogical ideas or frameworks or standards that you're looking at, maybe IB standards or whatever, then you want to basically use ChatGPT and then put it into Perplexity and then have Perplexity sort of update the content for you. Yeah, Gemini is also awesome. Smitha, the only reason I didn't include Gemini in here is because I didn't want there to be too many tools that we were looking at, but Gemini is pretty great too. I think ChatGPT is still a little bit better than Gemini in terms of like the creativity of the tools. But it's up to you, whichever tool you want to use. There's really like not a huge difference. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you is just 3 tools that are free to use for early childhood that I've seen used and that are pretty good. So one is Duolingo ABC. So if you're trying to have your child learn about English or sort of like teach language learning, that's free and it's specifically for early childhood. LitLab. This is basically an app, an AI app that creates leveled text for your kids. So things that are decodable. So, like simple words that are easy to read for different levels. So they actually have an offer going on right now where they're offering it for free until July. And so I would jump on that just because, they're probably going to make it paid later on. And then the last one is voice control for ChatGPT. This is one of my favorite things. So basically what you can do is you can actually install using a Google Chrome extension that allows you to speak to ChatGPT. And then you can speak to it in Hindi, actually, and then it will respond back to you in Hindi or in English. And so it's a really good way to have you or your students practice English, and it will talk back to you. Like it will literally talk back to you. And I can demo that. Let me see if I can share sound. Okay, let me see if I can demo this. So ChatGPT. Okay, so I added the Google Chrome extension. Can you see my screen, by the way? Amina, can you
Yeah.
confirm? You can see ChatGPT? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So on the bottom, so I added Google. So the Google Chrome voice chat is voice control for ChatGPT, and then you click on that first button. And then you just add to Chrome, and then it automatically basically adds it to your free version of ChatGPT. And so at the bottom, there's like this, tab here that basically allows you to speak to it. And you can speak to it in Hindi, you can speak to it in English, and it will respond back to you. So I'll start with English, and I'll say, "Hi, ChatGPT. I want you to tell me how you're doing in Hindi."
मैं ठीक हूँ। धन्यवाद, आपकी सेवा में हूँ। क्या मैं आपकी सहायता कर सकता हूँ?
Did you guys hear the Hindi version of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now, say if I want to practice in Hindi, then I can say, "Oh my God, my Hindi is not great. किताब को इंग्लिश में कैसे कहते हैं?"
किताब को अंग्रेजी में बुक कहा जाता है।
So it's like you can basically practice with it, which is like very, very cool. It uses should Hindi, so it's like very sort of like kind of old school. So you have to be a little careful with the colloquial stuff, but it's really cool. Yeah. Thank you for the wows. It's pretty cool that you could do that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this now. Oops, bad. Slideshow. Okay, great. Amina, can you confirm you can see my slideshow again? Yes? Yes. Okay, thank you. All right. So yeah, so I would definitely try those tools in your classroom. And the voice control one I think is like you can get so inventive with it. You can get so creative with it. And if you have like, let's say an iPad or something like that with voice control, you can have your kids practice their English with it, which is pretty cool. You just have to be careful and you have to monitor it because remember, these tools are not safe for under 13. And so you really have to make sure that they're using it for the right reason. All right, so the thing that I wanted to teach you guys about is something called step prompting, and then we're going to use step prompting in small groups, and we're going to actually generate lesson plans for different topics that you guys mentioned that you're having trouble with. Awesome, insane ideas, perfect. Thank you for that in the chat. So the step prompting basically is a little bit different than regular prompting. Regular prompting is when you like put in something that you want from ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini, and it gives you like the entire answer. Step prompting is slightly different. Step prompting is instead of giving it a long prompt, give it short prompts and feedback. So what I mean by that is first have it give you one little thing that you want, and then and have it give you 3 or 4 options. Then once you like one of those options, tell it I like that option, then give it feedback and have it give you a little bit more. And then once you like that, then have it give you a little bit more. So that basically allows for a few things. Number one is AI chatbot, they don't ask you before generating. So if you say, I want a lesson plan for early childhood, instead of asking you what subject or what objective or what standards, it'll just start creating. And then you'll have to like wait for it to like finish creating and then ask it to tweak it. So it just goes on its own. So you really have to like sort of stop it to give you exactly what you want. It's much more accurate based on your feedback. So if you're giving it accurate every step of the if you're giving it feedback every step of the way, it definitely will give you a lot more accurate sort of content, and it will allow you to sort of like get information that is more relevant to you. Chatbots perform better when you tell them to pause and take a break. So there's been research done on this. So if you tell a chatbot, like, this is what I want, and then you tell it to take a deep breath, like you tell the chatbot to take a deep breath, it's a robot, it performs better. It's kind of crazy, but it will do better if you actually tell it to pause. And so these step prompts basically allow you to tell it to pause, and it will give you better information and much, much more accurate information. Yeah, totally breathes. Okay, so that's what we're going to try today, and I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So for example, a small sort of like step prompt is you generate, you tell it to generate an activity idea. Then once you get the activity idea, you tell it which one you like, and then you say, okay, now generate the activity and related resources. Then you give it feedback on that, and then you say, generate a lesson plan, the activities, related resources, and assessments. And basically by building the GPT, by building the sort of like prompt that you want, it will give you a much, much better lesson plan at the end than if you just do the first large prompt from the beginning. You have to give it information in order for it to sort of like adjust to you. So other than that, aside from sort of like, information, the other thing you want to include is your objective and relevant standards, your grade level and subject, any learning differences you want to address, and all parts of the content that you wish to see. So I actually have a few examples of that. So here is a set prompt, and I'm going to send this to you in a moment so that you guys can see it and have access to this. Let me just, okay. So for example, if I am trying to create an engaging lesson or activity, the first step is my objective is XYZ, whatever you want it to be. I want my students to practice blah, blah, blah skills. I teach grade, blah, 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 subject, grade, blah, blah, blah. Now my prompt is generate 5 activities that help me help my students practice these skills. The second step would be to identify which activity you like that it created. So I like this activity. Now tell me how to implement this activity with details and create any related resources that might be required. Then after it does that, then you have it generate a lesson plan that includes that activity and an assessment. So if you give all of this at once, it's going to give you not a great response, but if you do it step by step, it will give you a much more accurate response. And you can do that with lessons for children with learning differences, ideas for behavior management, literacy routines, math routines. So let me go back to this. Okay. So some of the ways that you can use this is you can create new content. You can edit your old content. So if you have some like old lesson plans, you can throw it in there and you can have it edit it. You can differentiate old content. So let's say you have one lesson plan, but you have 10 students with different needs, and you can say, take this lesson plan and create 10 versions of it. You can receive feedback on old content. So let's say you have a lesson plan, you're like, I want to like improve this lesson plan. How do I do that? So you could do that. Today, before we get into it, I did want to tell you about the Collective Intelligence Bank. So this is basically going to be a repository that you all are going to create that I'm going to email to you. So basically everything that the 143 people in this room are going to create, you guys are actually going to get access to. And this is how we share knowledge, right? This is how we learn from each other. This is how we sort of like help each other. And so once you are sort of like done creating your content today, you're going to put it into this Google form, and basically you're going to put the result in there, and then you'll be honest about how effective is that result so that whoever's receiving it can judge for themselves and basically use the content that they think is relevant to them. So I'll drop that in there, the link to that chat later. All right, so now, I'm going to need your help. We're going to actually break up into small groups. And the 5 groups I've created are all based on what you put into your form earlier when you signed up for this. So a lot of you said that you have a lot of trouble finding engaging activities and lessons. A lot of you said that you have children with learning differences and you want to figure that out. A lot of you said that you have behavior management issues. A lot of you said that your kids are over hyper and you want to figure out how to help them, sort of learn in the classroom. Some of you talked about literacy and math skills, so I thought we could talk about the daily math routines that you can build in your class and daily literacy routines you can build in your class every day, so that there's ways that you can sort of like build on the knowledge every day. So what Amina's going to do is she's going to open up these rooms, and you can choose which room you want to go into. Amina, how many rooms did you create?
5. So there are 2
5.
rooms for engaging activities and lessons, one for
Oh, 6.
ideas for behavior management, literacy, and then math. Yeah.
Okay, so there are 6 rooms. So they're going to be fairly large rooms because we have a fairly large group. But what I would ask you to do is first just say hello to each other in the chat when you're in your room and just introduce yourself. Then one person, this might be a little bit hard, but one person share your screen. So in the group of 20 people, there should be at least one person that can share their screen to share their ChatGPT or Perplexity. I'm going to send you in the chat the document that I showed you with the sample step prompt, and I want you to copy that step prompt and edit the prompt. Now, if you're the person sharing your screen, you can do it on your own, or you can ask the people in the room, like, hey, what should we make this? And if you want it to be a wider discussion, awesome. You guys are all teachers, you can facilitate each other. But if you want to sort of just like be the person who's like showing everybody what they're doing, that's fine too. We're not going to do this for too long. We're going to do this for a short period of time and we'll come back together. But I want you to get into the practice of trying it. And while that person is sharing, you guys practice it on your own too, right? Like the person sharing is sort of like providing that sort of like stage presence, but like everybody else should be trying it on their own. Then use one of these tools. You can use Gemini too to start prompting with your screen. Discuss the results, see what you got, and then continue step prompting. And then if you're satisfied, submit it into the collective research bank. And if you're not satisfied, keep prompting, keep editing, keep editing. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you all in the chat. So this is the document that has all the prompts in it. And every group you can see is on the left, and you can edit the prompts as you see fit in your thing. And then the Collective Intelligence Bank link is at the top. So let's give this a try. This is the first time we're doing this, by the way. So I don't know how it's going to go. Hopefully you guys can sort of like facilitate and sort of like support each other. But we'll pop into the rooms to sort of like see how it's going. But we're going to spend, should we say 7 minutes, Amina, in this space, and then we'll get back together?
Yeah, 7 to 10 is good. A
Okay.
few things I would say is if you see any of the breakout rooms having more than 15, maximum 20 people, try not to join it. Otherwise, it gets too crowded and people are not able to interact with one another, even though 20 is a big number too. So just like make sure you're open to joining more than one room. And if there are any questions that you want to surface right now about the activity, please do so. We'll take quick questions and then I'll open up the rooms. You can come off of mute or put it in the chat. Okay, no questions. All right, I think that's a good sign. And I'll just open up the breakout rooms and you can all just click and go into whichever one you want to.
Remember, goal of today is practice, practice, practice. So practice using those step prompts in your ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini tool and share your work with each other. And then we'll come back together and talk about it.
All right, I see most people have gone. Others, if you're having any issues joining the rooms, feel free to just ask us and we'll troubleshoot.
Sorry to pull you out of your room.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry to pull you out of your rooms, but we were noticing that some of the groups were not speaking to each other, and so we want to make sure that this is a good use of your time. And so we didn't want to leave you in there without you having any sort of benefit from it. So what I thought we could do in the last 15 minutes is I could show you my screen, and I could show you how the step prompting works. And so while I'm doing this, please also do this. So if you have any of these tools, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, or Perplexity, or any of those, please use them also and practice with me. So I have my tool up. I'm going to open up my chat. Okay, so can anyone give me, let's see, let's try a daily math routine. So can anyone give me a objective that I want to accomplish with my students for a daily math routine? So what do I want my kids to learn?
Learn
Give me an
practice
example.
divisions. Okay, no, it's like not
Throw it in the
division.
chat. Basic math skills, okay? Tell me a little bit more. Sorry, Mrinal. Okay, addition. My objective is to help my students learn, or my objective is teaching students how to do addition. And I want my students to practice addition and subtract. Let's just do addition skills. Addition skills and learn about parts of a whole. I teach, let's say first grade. And my subject is generate 5 activities that will help my students practice these skills every day so that it is a daily routine. Make sure the routine is short and doesn't take more 10 minutes. So let's see what happens if I throw that in there. So now it gives me 5 activities, and I'm going to read through these activities and see which one I like. Oh, talking to me. Stop talking to me. Okay, there we go. It was talking to me because I had enabled the voice. All right. So Math Madness, where we display a simple addition problem on the board, and then it gives student 1 minute to solve the problem. After the 1 minute, have them share their answers. I don't know. I don't love that. Let me try a different one. Fraction Fun, introduce a fraction concept by showing a picture. And this is because I did parts of a whole, divided into equal parts, such as a pizza, and sliced it into halves. Ask students how many parts. Maybe addition race. Divide the class into pairs or small groups. Give each group a simple set of addition flashcards. Set a timer for 1 minute and have them do the flashcards. That could be a fun game. Story problems. Read a short story, a short addition story problem aloud in the class. Encourage students to use manipulatives or draw pictures to help them visualize a problem. I like that one. Math talk. Choose one student to share a math problem they encountered recently. The class discusses strategies for solving the problem. That one's pretty cool, but it would be hard for a sort of first grader to come up with that. So I think I like number 4. So I'm going to take my second thing here, and I'm going to put in, I like activity number 4. Tell me how to implement this activity with details and create any related resources. So you can see that it's referencing number 4, story problem, which is this one. And then it basically creates the visual aids and then the introduction, the classroom setup, all of the example resources and everything like that. It also gives you these handouts, which is pretty great. Then my last part is, how do I incorporate this into my daily routine? Throw that in there. And then it gives you sort of examples of when to do this. So I could do this at the beginning of a math lesson, transition, it could be presentation, it could be pair sharing, and it gives me an example of the daily routine. So basically that's how you use step prompting, and you want to keep giving it feedback. Like if you don't like something about, for example, like this story problem, I'm like, I don't really like that it's about addition. I want it to be subtraction. Then you can give it that feedback and it'll adjust it. But if you like start with the whole thing at once, then it'll be too complicated. So that's basically the step prompting idea. So I'll pause here just because we have only a few minutes left. I know that we want to do a survey, but also any questions, anything that you guys want to ask while we have this time?
Priti, do you think
And this,
the voice prompt would also work in the step process?
it would, but I think that when you're generating content, you want to make it text-based so that you can sort of like explain all the parts of it. When you're talking, it's like you're talking from the top of your head. But if you're like typing, you're a little bit more thoughtful about it. And so if you're generating content, I would do the typing piece. The voice gets really, really powerful when you're trying to practice language, or if there is a student or an adult that has visual impairment and wants to sort of like talk to ChatGPT and get responses. So it's really the voice is like, you know, very powerful for really voice-based things rather than text-based things. Gauri, do you have a question?
Yes, I did. I was curious how, and I haven't tried it, so I'm asking you this, how contextually relevant ChatGPT is today, given its usage, I think is fairly widespread. So for example, if I asked it to generate a lesson plan for a particular topic, and then I went through the step-by-step thing, have you tried tweaking it, saying, can you make this contextually relevant for urban India? Or, you know,
So what I would do,
yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I would do two things. Number one is, yes, you can say urban India, but I'm not sure it's going to get you exactly the results you want. So the thing that you want to do is you want to get any documents that you have on like standards in India or educational practices in India, or like any sort of like, I know that India just came out with like a whole set of like guidelines for educators. Copy parts of those, put it in ChatGPT and say, I want you to reference this as you're thinking about generating lesson plans. And so give it the content that you want. Now, the free version of ChatGPT, you can basically give it that content for that one chat. The paid version of ChatGPT, you can create your own GPT so that there's a GPT that has all of your content already uploaded. And every time you interact with it, it'll give you the information you want. And maybe, you know, next time we meet, I can teach you guys how to do that.
Sounds great.
Other
Thank
questions?
you for that question, Gauri. Other questions? I know a lot of you were coming in hoping that we would talk a lot more about the Indian context, and those questions can come from you. So feel free to surface them on the chat. Manisha, please feel free to unmute and ask.
So when we are talking about, you know, the classroom activities, my struggle is because we are online into online teaching. So the creating, you know, the specifically, should I mention it in the second or first
100%.
word?
100%. You should definitely say, I am teaching online. And if you have any frameworks that you've been using for online teaching, put that in there too. So give it as much information as you can for the activity piece. And then once you get what you need, then go through the step prompts. But if you tell it that you're doing online teaching, that it will give you practices and strategies for online teaching.
Online. So it should be in the first, you know, prompt.
Always in the first. So if you remember, the thing to include, and I would take a picture of this if you want to save this for yourself. But this is something that you really want to include, which is your objective and relevant standards, your grade level, any learning differences, and all parts of the content you wish to see. So the part of the content might be that you're online teaching and you want online strategies.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for that, Manisha. Mukul on the chat is asking, how can we get better training in prompt generation for education and learning? So if there are resources around this, like a process you mentioned with step prompting is very essential. Anything else that comes to mind?
There's a lot of resources. We created a course that the University of Idaho, so Idaho State University, there's a university based in the United States. They're giving out free credits for anybody who wants to register for our course. So you can actually take our course for free. It's about prompt engineering. So I can send you the link to that and you can take it totally for free. And it probably doesn't matter to you, but you get a continuing education credit, which is useful in the United States. I don't know if it's useful in India necessarily.
Okay. So I think, is there a link that we can probably share in the follow-up, right? We'll share
Absolutely.
a link in the follow-up. So don't worry about that. Yeah, Muralidhar, as I mentioned, we can just share it in all the other things that we'll share after the session ends. We'll be mindful of that. Thank you.
Mrinal had her hand up for a while.
Yeah. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
wanted to ask, can we get the learning outcomes also? with the prompts? Like with the lesson plan, we need to get the learning objectives and the learning outcomes for the specific children, right?
That's a great idea.
So can we go for that also? Can that prompt be also added to it? And what will be the learning objectives and what will be the learning outcomes? Both together. Because mainly when I've started using ChatGPT, I found that the learning objectives and the learning outcomes come under the same category. I couldn't differentiate much. And as I asked it to stop generating it, I could make it a stop there. But at the same time, I wanted that there should be some bifurcation also, that learning objectives should be different. Maybe I'm not using the correct prompt.
Yeah, prompting is everything. So continue thinking about it from the step perspective. And so if you want ChatGPT to give you a learning objective and learning outcome, tell it what the difference is, right? Tell
Okay.
it, this is what I think a learning objective is, and this is what I think a learning prompt is, outcome is. And so I want you to give me each of these when you generate the activity. And so if you tell it if you're defining it for it, so if you define what an apple is, then it will use that information and it will give you that same definition and outcome that you want. But you have to tell it first. And so make that step 0, right? So step 0 is you telling it what you want for the learning objective and outcome, what you think the definition is. Then step 1 will be to generate the activity with those outcomes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Riddhi. And I think that's an important point there, right? Like sometimes when I started using ChatGPT very early on, I thought that it would understand anything that I'm asking, right? Like, why are you not giving me an answer? I gave you the basic information. And I think it's important to note that as educators, we kind of have to lead the technology to work for us. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Let's see. Smita, if you want to just ask your question. You have your hand raised sometime. Go ahead, Smita. Oh, we can't hear you. If you want to put your question on chat, maybe that would help. Vidya, I assume the answer to your question is yes. If you put in the guidelines around NEP and ask the ChatGPT to orient the response around it, I feel like it should be able to do it. But why don't you tell us? Why don't you try it and add it to the repository that Riddhi has shared? And I think that would be very helpful. Okay, I think largely we're coming to a close, Riddhi. Would love to know if you have any ending comments, any other questions that are coming up. Everyone, please feel free to put it on chat. And if we can answer it after the session, maybe we'll put in our responses.
So I would say, practicing is really, really important here. And the step prompting is also really important. If you're giving it too much information, it's not going to quite work.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to know, like in Gemini and all, we get images. Is it possible to get image in ChatGPT also if we give a prompt proper for the lesson planning and all?
You can if you have the paid version of it. So the ChatGPT only offers DALL-E or the image generation tool in the paid version. In the free version, it doesn't. The best image generation tool that's free that I've seen has been in Canva, actually. So Canva is often free for educators, and there's
Text to
a
image is
little.
there. I know.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like better than like other sort of free tools that I've seen. So I would definitely use that. But the courses that I was talking about, there's also an image generation course on there that's also like you can access it for free. But one important thing is like you all have really great questions. You all have really great things that you want to share with each other. Our sort of community that is, on Ed3DAO, it's literally a place where you can pop in questions and other people will answer it for you and we'll answer it. So if you have questions for me or if you have questions for my team, if you pop into that community and you sort of like throw in your questions, we can answer them right away. And other people around the world who are using these tools very actively will also answer them. And so it's a really great place to share things.
one more difference what I can see from ChatGPT and Gemini is that you cannot transfer your data. Like if I am asking for a Google Sheet or tabular form, some answer in tabular form, we cannot transfer it in Google Sheet, but Gemini do that.
Yeah, no, ChatGPT is definitely not as good at that. So there's like differences, right? So Gemini is really good at data transfer, whereas ChatGPT is better at the creative and sort of like more text-based responses. So yeah, so one of the things, Smitha, you make a really good point. You have to practice with all these tools and you have to figure out which tool is working for you at different times. Not meaning that you should get really good at one tool. If you practice a few different tools, and you'll be able to combine them to basically use them to your
And
needs.
real-time data is also not available in ChatGPT, whereas
In the paid
Bharti
version, it is. Yeah, in the
yeah,
paid
but
version, it is, but in the free version, it's not. Perplexity does offer real-time
yeah,
data
purpose.
in the free version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're out of time. But thank you so much. This was really great. Thank you so much for your questions and your amazing chat. You guys were so active today. It was a great audience. But we would love to stay engaged with you. We'll send you a follow-up email, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Riti. Hopefully, in the next, we're going to do these theme-based sessions in the next few weeks as well. You'll all receive updates from me. Maybe we can try out the breakout rooms format then. I'm sure it'll be successful once people warm up to it. I'm sending you the feedback form, everyone, on the chat. If you fill it out, we can send you follow-up resources. If you've registered, you'll also receive them. But thank you so much for engaging with us this evening. Riti, thank you so much for your time. And I'm excited to see where all of this understanding of AI platforms go. Thank you, everyone.
Are we getting any
Please
certificate for
the
this
feed
also?
form.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vriti.